Greetings from MWN.com. Dr.M.Wilson, formerly Vice Principal and Head of Department of Commerce, Scott Christian College, Nagercoil is delighted in presenting this session. Thank you. Please subscribe the channel MWN.com. Impact and reasons for inflation. Meaning of inflation. Inflation is the rate at which the price of goods and services increases over time. It can affect nearly any product or service, including need-based expenses like housing, food, medical care, and utilities, as well as want-based expenses such as cosmetics, automobiles, and jewelry. The expectation of further inflation becomes an overriding concern in the consciousness of consumers and businesses, once inflation becomes prevalent throughout an economy. Impact of inflation. Inflation can have many negative effects for the society. It affects income, savings of individuals, increase in prices, etc. The important impacts of inflation can be classified as effects on individuals, effects on businesses, and effects on economy. 1. Effects on individuals. 1. Reduced purchasing power. Inflation causes the value of money to decrease over time. Hence, the same amount of money buys less. For example, if a consumer can buy 5 kgs of apple in a month at the rate of 200 rupees per kg and he could able to buy only 4 kilograms of apple if the price is 250 rupees per kg. 2. Higher prices. Inflation increases prices of all goods and services. Hence, people find it difficult to meet their day-to-day expenses. 3. Higher interest rates. Inflation can cause interest rates to increase. Hence, borrowing of money becomes more expensive. 4. Lower savings. Inflation can cause the value of savings to decrease, especially if the interest rate is lower than the inflation rate. This is because people have to spend most of their earnings for buying essentials due to the increase in prices. 2. Effects on businesses. 1. Lower profit margins. Inflation can erode profit margins for businesses, especially non-energy corporations. Profit will decrease due to decrease in demand. 2. Increased competition. Inflation can cause some businesses to expand to increase their profits. Increase in price induce new entrants of business which will create competition. 3. Effects on the economy. 1. Lower economic growth. Inflation can cause economic activity to decrease. It leads to lower economic growth. 2. Decrease in purchasing power. Inflation will lead to decrease in purchasing power. 3. Trade imbalances. Inflation can cause trade imbalances between countries with different inflation rates. Countries with low inflation rates can benefit much by selling at high price in high inflation countries. 4. Increased employment. Inflation can increase employment opportunities due to the increase in production and spending. This is because more firms will start production due to the increase in prices. 5. Income inequality. Inflation can increase income inequality. The income of some people falls whereas some others' earnings increase. Reasons for inflation. The important 5 causes of inflation are increase in wages, increase in the price of raw materials, increase in taxes, decline in productivity, increase in money supply. The causes of inflation can be outlined as follows. 1. Supply shocks. Disruptions to production due to natural disasters, rising production costs, etc. decrease supply of goods and services. It ultimately increases the prices. 2. Demand shocks. If demand for goods and services exceeds the economy's ability to produce them, it leads to inflation. 3. Monetary policy. If the money supply grows too large relative to the size of the economy, it leads to inflation. 4. Inflation expectations. If consumers and producers expect prices to increase in the future and it further increases the inflation. 5. Labor mismatches. Sometimes, there are too many workers without jobs in some places or in some industry. In some places or in some industry there may be a high demand for labor. This leads to inflation. 6. Geopolitical conflict. If there is conflict between countries and wars impact in high prices. 7. Increase in taxes. If the governments increase taxes, it reduces purchasing power of consumers and also high production costs of goods and services for the industry. 8. Housing market. If there is high demand for homes, which can lead to higher prices for homes and related products and services. Factors leading to inflation. There are 4 main factors leading to inflation in an economy. 1. Demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation arises when aggregate demand outpaces aggregate supply of goods and services. This kind of inflation is common in periods when the economy is in a recovery trend and the unemployment rates are falling. 2. Cost push inflation. Cost push inflation occurs due to hikes in production costs. It is due to the increases in the prices of commodities such as oil and food, or natural disasters. Hence, aggregate supply decreases and consequently the general level of prices increases. 3. Money supply. An increase in the money supply is another factor of inflation. Increase in money supply induces increase in investment and consumption expenditures. It increases the prices of goods and services. 4. Inflation expectations. Consumers and producers' expectations of a persistent increase in prices in the future constitute another factor of inflation. These expectations lead to further hike in the prices of goods and services since consumers will buy more goods now for future in anticipation of increase in prices in future.